it's Janice Tuck here, and welcome back to Music Teachers Q&A. Now, this is the place for music teachers who want to get the most out of their music teaching career. And today I've got a great question for you on a topic which is extremely important for all music teachers out there. In fact, I think it's the one topic which I would have to say is the single most common challenge we have been hearing about from all of the questions that have come in from all of these sessions. So what do you think it is? Is it finding the right content? Is it behaviour management? Is it dealing with a lack of budget? I don't know. What do you think is the biggest question ever asked? Well, I was surprised to find out that it was actually knowing how to deal with students with special needs. Now, many of the questions go something like this, and today I've got one from Liliana in the UK, and she asks, what are some good ideas for music lessons for teaching ADHD students? Now, if you haven't heard of that term before, that means attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. How do I make my music lessons more interesting for SEN? And if you haven't heard of that term before, it means special education needs students. I've got another one here from Rosalind in Australia, and she wants to know how to cater for autistic children in a mainstream school music class. And I've also got a question here from Tamara in Canada who asks, how do you include special needs students and have it not distract from your own lesson? So I think the first thing to say to you all is that you're not alone, because I know there's so many people out there that have the same issues. I know it can feel like sometimes that you're only the one who has to cope with all of these tricky situations, but don't worry. There are teachers everywhere faced with this situation every single day, and it's one of the hardest situations to be faced with. Of course, autism, Asperger's, ADHD, deafness, and all the other physical and intellectual disabilities are all very complicated, complex issues on their own, and they all deserve to be treated carefully and with respect. So therefore, I want to do more research and speak to a couple of experts in these areas particularly before I can give really full advice about any one of those particular situations or conditions. There are no hard and fast rules when it comes to special needs students, because every student in every situation is completely different, and there is so much variation in the children's abilities and backgrounds. However, I've been thinking a lot about this more generally, and I believe that one of the first steps with it is to change our own beliefs and expectations. Now, I know that as teachers, we are expected to teach. Sounds obvious, doesn't it? But the outcomes of our lessons should be that the children learn things, and that, of course, is the outcome for most students. However, for a special needs child, it can be quite different. Now, I think the key is to first understand the child. That means you need to get to know them and get to know what achievement is for them. And often it can be a very different scenario to a mainstream student. Achievement for a special needs child might be that they can actually participate in something, that they can hold a percussion instrument and hit it at an appropriate time, or they can respond to a single sound. So step one is to understand the child first. Get to know their parents if you can, understand where they're coming from, and what achievement might mean for the particular student. Now, as each and every one of them will be completely different, as there's such a spectrum of special needs. There can be anything from mild learning difficulties to really complicated physical and intellectual disabilities. The second piece of advice is just to keep it as calm as you possibly can. So even before the students enter into the room, if you have some quiet background music going on, they might not even notice it, but it might just have enough effect that they can settle down just a little bit before the class starts. Often when issues arise with special needs students, it can be that the activity might be too loud for them or move too quickly to unfamiliar territory. If you can just get into a routine where you can calm them down first and where they can come into the classroom, then you might be able to focus at least on some content. Now, the third piece of advice I have for you is that you establish a familiar routine. Now, I think what I mean by this is that I think with students with special needs, a very stable and consistent routine is really important. So students know exactly what to expect, but you can still surprise them a little bit every now and again. Now, doesn't this just sound like good teaching practice to you? Really, it's just good teaching strategy. And I'm sure that a lot of you do all of this automatic anyway. But I think it's even more important when you have special needs students in the class. Getting the right mix of consistency with just a little bit of variety is really important. So what I'm trying to say is that for the special needs students, this sense of routine in the classroom is extremely important. I heard a very wise teacher give the following advice recently, and she said that on the first day, students have to know where to sit when they come into your room. They have to know what to expect of them, and they have to know where to put their things. Sounds like really simple stuff, I know, but it is so absolutely true, isn't it? This is 10 times more important when you're dealing with special needs students, and you can't just cover it all on the first day. You need to say it and do it every single time in routine so they get the hang of those first few things. Now, you might have noticed that recently I've shared a couple of activities that you might find suitable for your special needs students, and I'll post links to them below this video. Now, one was a video on how you could use some backing tracks to do some bucket drumming with them. And another one was where students created sounds from nature with graphic notation. Now, you might find these activities useful, or you might not. You might have found other activities that really work for special needs. And if that is the case, then I want you to share. If you're watching this on my blog, then I want you to share that great idea that you have for special needs students in the comment box below. If you're watching this video elsewhere, then you can go to this page. Of course, much of the value in a session like this comes from the comments section. So we really do appreciate everyone that shares their experiences and pieces of advice that you have, especially this week about dealing with types of students, such as special needs students. So go ahead, place your comments and feedback below, and I really look forward to reading your contributions and discussing them all with you.